And then they go on top of that. Whoa, hold on. We just gonna act like they didn't even bring this up? The craziest part about this documentary that nobody's even talking about is that for his pro day with the Browns, he was throwing to his lawyer and his agent, and the Browns still drafted him. Like, bro really had a pro day with his lawyer and agent, and the Browns were like, yep, this the one. So yesterday, I watched the brand new and extremely hyped up Johnny Manziel documentary on Netflix. And I'm not gonna lie to you guys, I wasn't even hyped up to watch it whatsoever, and I didn't think it was gonna be that good. Let me give you a better perspective. My expectations for this documentary was about a 5 out of 10. And overall and all in all, I was extremely pleased with it, and I'm giving it a 9 out of 10, and I'll explain why in this video. And I also can't even believe I'm making this video because I didn't even plan on talking about it whatsoever. The reason for that is rather simple. I'm sure some of you may have or may not have seen this video I posted over a year ago where I did my own documentary on Johnny Manziel. I'll pop it up on the screen right here. It's a good watch, and I would say it's one of my better videos. It's a 40-minute long documentary. So for that reason alone, that's why I really wasn't too excited to watch Netflix's documentary, because I thought I knew everything already about Johnny Manziel. For that video that I made, the 40-minute one you see right here, I did 3 to 4 days of nonstop research. And in my documentary, there's actually some stuff that Netflix didn't put in there that I wish they would have. But, and I have a really big but, Netflix put some stuff in there and Johnny Manziel exposed some stuff that nobody even knew. The one story I wish I would have talked about, or at least got Johnny Manziel to talk about, was this one right here. It's a part of my documentary. Matt wrote a clip. With Johnny Manziel not being the most responsible person ever, his bad decisions, they would continue to happen. In early June of 2016, he would rent out an expensive rental home in LA. The place he rented out was over 5,000 square feet and he was only there for a couple of days. 2 nights to be specific. The guy he rented it from said if over 15 people come, you gotta pay a $5,000 fine, and Manziel agreed to it. Right there alone, that's a stupid decision, paying a $5,000 fee just to have over 15 people. But hey, he had the money, so I guess it wasn't a big deal at the time. I think you know where this is going. It didn't turn out to be all so good. The police actually showed up to the place he was staying at because of noise complaints. Manziel did not check out on time, so the guy that owned it was like, okay, what's going on? And he went up to the place and said this. Manziel was passed out, there was cocaine all over the kitchen table, and mushrooms were still out on the table in front of him. There was booze everywhere, broken glasses over the floor, and a champagne glass in a tree. How does a champagne glass get in a tree? I don't know. I just want you guys to try to imagine this. This guy was a Heisman Trophy winner, and only a couple years later, he's passed out in the middle of a floor. Drugs all around him, champagne bottles and trees. Man, life hits you fast. The guy that owned the place sent a letter to Manziel's lawyer and demanded over $31,000. I'm telling you, I said it at the start of this video. If you didn't know who this guy was, you would think he was a fictional character in a movie. All you can do is laugh and shake your head because you can't make this stuff up. But getting on track here with this documentary, there's a lot of things I want to talk about because a lot got exposed. First things first, I do want to share this comment that was on my video I made over a year ago where somebody stated, I faced Manziel in high school. I wish I knew you were doing this story. I could have gave you more insight before you put this out. Dude walked out to Star Wars Darth Vader music at home games and flicked us off, and that got over 1,400 likes. Is that true or not? I have no idea, but I kind of want to believe it. That was who Johnny Manziel was. And I got to be honest with y'all, I loved it. And that's why I think everybody loved it. He was the most polarizing college football quarterback we've ever seen. And even with this documentary coming out, there's so many mixed reviews. You either hate this guy or you love him, no in betweens. You either admire him for not trying, not giving a flying F about anything. He was pretty much a frat boy that was beyond talented at football, or you just hate them for not working hard. And I understand that perspective because it does piss me off where you got people in this life that are extremely talented and they throw it all away. And that's what he did. But for me, at least, I just can't help but smile and shake my head because it's unreal at how far he actually got without trying. Think about it. I'm getting a little too far ahead of myself. First things first, I want to talk about the Alabama game because that's where everything really started. I want to give you my perspective. When Johnny Manziel was playing Alabama, and y'all know I'm an Alabama fan, I was 12 years old. This was in 2012, and I remember not only everything from that game and day, but I remember everything leading up to it. I remember heading into that game as a Bama fan, we're number one, and if you're from the Southeast, you know this. Football, it's everything. This was before Wi-Fi. I didn't have Wi-Fi at least until I was 16, so that was in 2016. This is before Wi-Fi. This is before phones, social media, all that stuff. I mean, you had social media, but like I said, I didn't even have Wi-Fi. Most people didn't back then, so it wasn't normal. But moving along here, heading into that game at school, there was no chitter chatter leading up until that game. For example, if you go to high school in Alabama and you were playing Auburn that week, from Monday up until Friday, Auburn, Alabama fans are talking smack. And if Alabama's playing LSU, all the Auburn fans or Florida fans that I went to school with, they're going to say, oh, well, LSU, I think they got y'all's number, blah, 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 blah. You know how it goes. Well, I remember leading up to this game at school, everybody's just like, oh, yeah, y'all got A&M this week. That's a guaranteed W. Nobody, and I mean nobody, thought A&M even had a chance to win that game. It was in Tuscaloosa. Nobody beats Nick Saban in T-Town. Nobody. And well, here comes Johnny Football strolling in on his high horse. Ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls, I like to label this as a perfect storm. And the craziest part about this is Alabama was prepared. I don't think they were underestimating Johnny Football. I don't think they were. Remember, the defensive coordinator at the time was Kirby Smart, one of the best of all time. The problem was Johnny Manziel was just that dang good. And people also don't even understand this. That Alabama team that year still won the championship. And Johnny Manziel made them look like they didn't know what they were doing out there. The second half, Alabama's defense played way better. But that first half, I think the first 3 or 4 drives, we just couldn't stop them. And I remember watching it live as a 12-year-old, and I'm like, dude, what is going on? And that one play I can't get out of my head where he bumps into his offensive lineman, fumbles the ball in midair, and then throws it to a wide open. I think it was Ryan Swoop. I could be wrong on that. When that play happened, I was just like, man, we're in trouble. It was surreal to watch because no matter what Kirby Smart did on that Alabama defense, we couldn't stop him. And why I call it a perfect storm is because at the time, Texas A&M, they had no hopes of even winning that game. And their offensive coordinator, Cliff Kingsbury, he just let Johnny Manziel do whatever he wanted. Manziel was ahead of his time because now we see all these air raid offenses, but back then that was the game style Texas A&M had, and it fit Manziel perfectly. And that's why I label it as a perfect storm, and of course we all know how the story goes. He wins the Heisman. Great year. I did want to share y'all my perspective on the Alabama game from an Alabama fan. And if you're an Alabama fan or heck, just a college football fan and you watch that game, let me know your thoughts on it down below. What did you think when you saw Johnny Football do that against Nick Saban and Kirby Smart? As far as it goes for the documentary itself, nothing really caught my attention until later in the documentary because everything that happened at A&M, from meeting that guy at the hotel and signing all the autographs, I already covered that myself. But the one thing I didn't know that his agent exposed in that Netflix documentary is right before the combine, a week before, he went to a party, and you know what happens after that. He was clean for like 25 weeks straight. It's a week left, a week before the combine, and he can't stay clean for one more week. And I understand totally why this agent wound up firing Johnny Manziel. And yes, you heard me correctly. The agent fired Johnny Manziel. He was a loose cannon. You couldn't control him. And even in the documentary, it speaks about it. His parents couldn't even control him. It got to the point where they're like, yeah, he ain't going to listen to us anymore. He's hanging out with Drake. He's hanging out with LeBron James. He won't listen to a thing we say. The fame and money got to his head, and we all know this. Fame and money in this world, it's power. And y'all know my favorite quote, with great power comes great responsibility. I just can't get over the fact that some people out here, they can't get out of their own way. You have the opportunity of a lifetime. If you fail a drug test before the NFL Combine or before your pro day, dude, you're going to fall probably to like the 4th or 5th round. That is the biggest no-no of all time, and everybody knows that. That is a huge red flag. And if you fall from the 1st round to the 4th or 5th round, you're talking about losing out on $8 to $10 to $12 million. And yet, even with those consequences, Johnny Manziel still went out and partied. It's self-sabotage at its finest. I've said it when I talk about these 4- and 5-star recruits where about once every 2 or 3 months we got to make a video where some 5-star recruit has ruined his life. I firmly believe this, and I don't care what anybody says. It's not that hard to stay out of trouble. It ain't that hard to just play football, go to practice, work out, hang out with your boys. You can have fun, but just don't do illegal activities. It ain't that hard. Sorry. If you disagree, I think you're a straight up loser and we can't even have a conversation. And then to go on top of that, whoa, hold on. We just gonna act like they didn't even bring this up? The craziest part about this documentary that nobody's even talking about is that for his pro day with the Browns, he was throwing to his lawyer and his agent, and the Browns still drafted him. Like, bro really had a pro day with his lawyer and agent, and the Browns were like, yep, this the one. Or whatever it was. It wasn't his pro day, but it was a private workout for the Browns. And then what I thought was the most interesting part about the documentary, at least for myself, was his friend made up the lie that was even carrying on to this day that Johnny Manziel came from oil money and his family was rich. From my research and knowledge, his family, they were doing okay in life. They had some decent money. I'd put them in the upper middle class. But the narrative that his friend threw out there, I believe his name was Nate, was that, oh yeah, they had oil money. They were like multi-millionaires. And it was a very believable lie because his parents could pull it off because, yeah, they had some money, but not as much as Nate, his friend, was trying to play off as. And looking back on it, it was a genius play because he's right. Johnny Manziel was pulling up in new Mercedes-Benz. He was flying private. He was sitting courtside. Sitting courtside cost like $10,000 a ticket. And if they didn't use that cover-up, I think the NCAA would have cracked down on him quicker, but they didn't. And you got to give his friend a ton of credit. They were living like straight up rock stars for a year and nobody even knew. I really liked his friend in the interviews. That had to be a crazy just couple of years for them. They're making all this money. They're going to all these baseball, basketball games, staying in the best hotels. They were living the dream life. Also, and this didn't get talked about enough, at least I think. I wish I would have talked about this more. Even though you can say, oh yeah, well, we come from a well-off family, you still somehow, someway got to launder the money. And that's what Johnny Manziel did. And guess who he did it through? His grandpa. I thought that was the funniest twist. And then I think they cut to his grandpa and he's just laughing about it. And you know what's sad about all of this? None of this should have been illegal in the first place. If somebody's willing to pay you for your autograph, I've said this for years now, you should be entitled to that money. I firmly believe that. It's bullcrap that before the NIL, you couldn't make money from your own signature. Everything we just talked about, those are the things that I didn't know and I didn't cover in my documentary. Like I said, I've already covered it before, but the things we talked about in this video, those were the things that intrigued me in the documentary. Let me know in the comment section what caught your attention. Johnny Football, man, he was a heck of a talent, and it sucks to see talent go to waste, but man, that kid could play. I just think he got burnt out, and with all of the media attention, him making all that money, it felt like it happened over a 6 to 7 year span, but it all happened in 2 years. I think with him rising to fame as quickly as he did, it aged him about 10 to 15 years, and it burnt him out of the game. And he's also stated that on podcasts and stuff that he just fell out of love with the game. And it's not just him. A lot of people experience that. I had a couple buddies in high school who loved baseball and basketball their entire life, and by the time they were in 11th or 12th grade, they quit because they didn't love it. And once you don't love a sport anymore, it's miserable. You don't want to get out there and do anything, so I definitely understand why he didn't want to play in the NFL. It sucks, but it also goes to show you his lack of work ethic. This also goes to show you why being the best of all time, like Tom Brady, it doesn't just come down to talent. Is Tom Brady the most talented quarterback of all time? No, not even close. What makes him the greatest of all time is his work ethic, how hard he's worked over the many years. I could sit up here all day and talk about Johnny Football. Such an interesting person, such an interesting story, but I'm going to leave it at that. Let me know your thoughts down below, but